Hey, folks, Chris Jardine here, aka Snaggle J, General Manager of your TGS Cincinnati Reds. This is the end of season 2031 retrospective with a side plate of Q&A from fellow GMs in the Discord. As you can see, much as we predicted in the last episode, we finished the season dismally. 56 and 106. Dead last in the National League. Which, after a bit of an improvement last season, 74 and 88, a 18 loss increase. Not great. I'm not going to spend too much time diving into it. We are going to do, I know I had kind of waffled in a previous episode on whether or not we would do a tier list. I am going to do a tier list probably next week. I'm going to try to put it together this weekend. So probably next week we'll do the tier list video. But, a very interesting season for us. The win-loss record, aside, we kind of expected, after a huge offensive breakout in 2030 that would continue, considering that we were fielding pretty much an identical lineup and actually some improvements, with guys like Andrade. And it didn't work out. As you can see on the screen, bottom three in the NL in pretty much every metric possible, with the exception of home runs. And I guess stolen bases, where we were 13th. So, a lot has been made in the Discord about luck and the schedule and whatever. And honestly, you know what? I'm ready to just put that all behind us and move on to the off season and next season, and just hope that, we don't get a repeat of this. A lot to be excited about in Redsland. Jaden Krause, again, who did battle some injuries. Put up almost 500 at bats, had 19 homers, hit almost 300. Had a 30 double season. Very good, sophomore season from Jaden Krause. Which you love to see. He's our captain. He's 23. He's one of our primary outfielders. You love to see that. Andrade had a good season. Again, we used him primarily against lefties for the most part. You see, he did only get 391 at bats, but did have 12 homers, 27 doubles. I think he could be better with more regular playing time. Obviously, a Cody Modesty, probably the worst year of his career. At least since he really broke out in 2026. 34 homers, 76 are just a dreadful season for Mondesi. And to be honest, probably a guy that we're going to be looking to move this offseason. Obviously, we had the arrival of Vincent Thompson, the 2030 number 2 overall pick. Had a great showing in limited time. 917 OPS. He did it 9 homers and 4 doubles in 108 at bats. Batting pretty much only against righties. Obviously, we're hoping for a little bump in the lefty splits in the offseason as he fills out this last 10 contact and this last 5 power and this last 5 avoid Ks. He did have a pretty nasty 29.9% K rate. But again, big things to come from Vinny Thompson. The ultimate determining factor is going to be, where do we play him? Does he play at first base? Does he play corner outfield? We'll see. Another good season from Redford Jones, who followed up his 29 home run rookie season with 24 homers. Again, third base might be a position where we look to upgrade. Jones is, a negative bat runs player. We might look for something a little different at third base. But we'll see. Noel Carlson. Everett Ledford had another good season in center field. Again, nothing crazy. He's pretty average player. Back-to-back 40 double seasons, which is nice. Gives you a slight bit of pop. Obviously, a downtick in the batting average and the on base and the slugging. So But I mean, who wasn't having a setback year for us? Again, it'd be interesting to see arbitration. He wants $1.5 million. We'll probably hang on to him as our center fielder next year unless something better falls into our lap. Noel Carlson, who made his debut for us as our second baseman, struggled in the beginning. You can see, after we called him up in April, he hit 220. He had a good May, but then 189, but then really kind of finished a bit better. 255 in July, 294 in August, 244 in September, which was a bit of a setback. But overall on the season, not too bad. 243, 289, 335. 5 homers, 19 doubles. Again, he does have a little bit left to fill out here with the contact and the gap and the eye. Looking forward to seeing what he's going to do with a full season under his belt as our second baseman. JT Grishaber, who finally, this guy dates back to the very first trade we ever made in 2027. He is one of the last, well, not the last, I suppose I still have Lehman and Mendoza and Guzman. But one of the key pieces of the Calvin Rentmeister, Cadman Reeder deal, we gave him a chance in September, and boy, oh boy, did he turn up. 80 at-bats. He had 7 doubles, 5 homers, 17 RBIs. Again, this is not sustainable. You look at what he was doing in the minors, which is essentially, not a whole lot. He comes up here in September and hits 275 with a 550 slugging. And again, he is a guy who has the potential to provide plus defense as well with his 70 catcher ability. Not much on the arm department, so we have a lot of catcher options with Grishaber and McCafferty and Siedzinski. It's going to be interesting to see what we do at catcher. And then Brian Daenzer was Brian Daenzer. The range not being 80 anymore just kills us in the fielding stats. You can see, he went from an 11 ZR down to 3.5. Again, still positive, but when you have a guy who's hitting 190, he needs to be giving you more than 3 ZR. We do have some options in the system. I think Daenzer is probably going to end up being like a super util defense guy for us. He did have 26 out of 29 steals, so he does have 58 steals over the last 2 years. But we're probably going to transition him more into a late inning defensive replacement option for center field and shortstop or second base or one of those places where we could use a defensive option. Where we had all kinds of issues was just the pitching staff. Things were just not great. With some of the options that we had there. Again, Johnny Boss was in and out of the rotation. He finishes 2-9. Newland Boyle goes 9-18. Newland Boyle, who had a very interesting season because he would have flashes of absolute dominance. He did lead the pitching staff with 2.6 wins above replacement. Again, he would flash signs of being dominant. I mean, you look at his last couple starts, 7 innings, 4 hits, an earned run, 7 1/3. He had this 1 inning start here where I think he left and hurt. This 6 1/3 with a couple of runs. He did have some nice, he had 7 innings, 3 hits, shutout ball, 7 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs. So Newland Boyle does have something behind him. He's probably shown enough this year to get another chance next year, barring any, off-seasonal acquisitions. Ken Jacobson in his first year of his 4-year, $80 million deal. Again, I think he could be better than that. He did spend some time hurt. Eli Stutz, who was a guy we picked up from Oakland, he has a $14 million player option, and he has started to die. We transitioned him into the bullpen where he was significantly better, especially in the later half of the season. I mean, his August and September, he was absolutely electric. The problem is he has started to deteriorate. He took a big hit this last sim to his velocity stuff, both sides, some pitch loss. Again, I don't think we have much hope of him opting out, but one can pray. A lot of the guys that are left in this bullpen are guys that are replaceable. Fuqua, Allman, Pimentel, Slack, those guys are probably all going to be homeless here as soon as we get to the offseason. Owen DeRuin, Could not back up his 14-7 again, which where I think he pitched out of his weight. This year he actually had a very similar line, one less walk, 11 more Ks. ERA is about the same, but again, just no run support. Zacone might be the one guy in the bullpen that keeps his job. Had a pretty nice season across 99 and 2/3 innings for us. Kip Mullins is probably a guy that we lose. All in all, there's maybe 5 guys in here that should make up part of our pitching staff at the beginning of the season if all goes well. So all in all, you know what? We know where our issues are. We need to continue to tweak what's happening with the pitching side, and we need to have faith that our hitters can bounce back and put together a better 2032. I will say, looking at the player development side, we do have some guys. We've talked about TJ Nickerson before, who has risen all the way up to the 16th ranked prospect in baseball. A very interesting season from him as he advances from low A to high A to double A, where he had a .555 slugging percentage in 110 at-bats with 10 dongs. He had 29 home runs across the season. Again, he has popped significantly. Very, very much in the running to be our designated hitter to start next season. We've had a couple other nice performances. San Juan continues to just be okay in the minors and horrible in the big leagues. Andres Figueroa, who was our first-round pick, had a nice run in Double A. Again, we had tried him in High A for a bit, and he was great. 302 with an 812 OPS, 13 homers, 32 RBIs, 11 doubles. Again, going to be in the conversation for a corner outfield spot. As you can tell, our corner outfield currently pretty loaded. I mean, we have some guys on the big club that we haven't even talked about, like Ronaldo Diaz and Dex Pape. Dex Pape, a guy we got on waivers from Toronto, had a .488 slugging percentage in 209 at-bats. He had 15 doubles, 5 triples, and 7 home runs. A guy that we picked up when we were kind of down in the dumps and suffering for some injury situations, and he played very, very well. Definitely going to be a guy that could be in the conversation as a bench player for next year. Ronaldo Diaz, who was a guy that we picked up in a trade with Pittsburgh, where we got Slack and Dotson and Cody Georgia and Hurtado for Ryan McPherson. Again, Ronaldo Diaz had a nice little run as well, 260. Not much in the power or the slugging department, but again, he's got a nice profile. Could be a guy that we look to move. Again, just, an interesting... I mean, here's the thing. It's hard not to be disappointed. It's hard not to be discouraged. When you improve by... when you improve by 15 wins and then you lose another almost 20, it's disappointing. You're disappointed. It's one of the worst seasons in the history of the club. It might actually be the worst season in the history of the Reds. Which, you know what, I'm going to go look up now, but I'm going to be disappointed. We got 102 there, 101, 103. So it is the worst season in franchise history, including the non-sim times. It's hard not to be discouraged, but that's the game sometimes. Sometimes the game just tries to screw you, and we have to look at it that way and just continue to believe in what we're trying to do, continue to acquire assets and use those assets to fill gaps, and just hope that 2032 gives us better dice rolls than 2031 has. I don't think it could be much worse. And again, you know what? On the bright side, the silver lining is here, we have a great core of players, and, we've now gotten ourselves a number 2 overall pick. Which the last time we had a number 2 overall pick, it was Vincent Thompson. So again, huge potential benefits there. I did say I would answer some of your questions, so here goes. With multiple seasons now in the books, what do you feel has been the biggest adjustment from your PT days? I mean, the biggest thing, they're completely different games in one retrospect, right? In Perfect Team, everybody has access to the same Rolodex of players, so it is easy to define what the meta is. And then if you just want to run those 26 guys, you can, and have some modicum of success if price is no object to you. Obviously, in this, with everybody being unique and resources being limited in certain things like pitching, third base, elite catchers, center field, shortstops, it's more strategic, right? Everybody in Perfect Team, especially in the upper levels, can build their team the same way. You can use the same cards. Sure, you could change some things with your strats and your how you use your pitchers and stuff, but essentially everybody has access to the same things. Whereas here, you know, you have to make do with what you have, or you have to go out and shrewdly acquire what you need. Um, the biggest thing for me with this, is a lot of times with Perfect Team, again, if you're in that upper tier of people who have all the good cards, whether you've grinded for them or whether you've spent, most likely the latter, you can sort of set it and forget it. It's very easy to say, oh, I've got a wicked team, set it and forget it, here you go. Whereas here, you really need to be actively managing and understanding who you're playing on the road and how your lineup might set up to their park. And that's been a big adjustment for me. I've often said, you know what, I'm not super knowledgeable about the game. And I've learned so much in the 4 seasons, 28, 29, 30, 31, that 4 seasons that I've been here. So I think that's kind of the biggest difference for me. The biggest adjustment is you always have to be evaluating, and you always have to be learning, and you always have to be willing to try something different and identify when that doesn't work and then move on. I know your season has been a disappointment, but your projections were solid. For those who don't remember, our projections were in kind of the mid-70s. With the NL wide open the way it has been this year, do you see yourself as a piece or two away from contention next year or needed some serious retooling? I'm going to say neither. I don't think we're a piece or two away. I think offensively, yes. I think offensively, we've got a very good core of hitters that we can deploy that provide decent enough defense, decent enough hitting. I don't think 640 runs scored and being 14th is indicative of how this team can hit. I think we're much better than that. Obviously, we can improve the defense a little bit, but I think we can hit way better. Again, full season of Vincent Thompson, some lineup retooling, Cody Mondesi being Cody Mondesi. I think we're better than that. That being said, I don't think we're a piece or two away considering the state of our pitching staff still. We traded away a lot of our core relievers, again, in an asset acquisition exercise at the deadline. We knew we were way out of it. We had guys that were expiring or that had options for next year. Move them. There was a big demand for relievers due to injuries this year, so we took advantage of that and traded guys like McPherson, and amongst others, to try and really, really capitalize on the market there. So I don't think we're a piece or two away. I think we're 4 or to 6 pieces away. But I also wouldn't say we're in need of some serious retooling. I like what we're doing offensively. I like the core that we have of our hitters. I like, some of the things we have in the minors. Again, we still have guys that I love to find room for. Dan Lanzalota hit 25 home runs in AAA, and we can't get him in the lineup. Josh Brecken, who was the love of my life for the first couple of seasons, back when he was hitting 60 and 50 doubles, when we had a park that was good for that. We can't get him in the lineup. The guy who hit 300 last year this year in the minors. We've got Nickerson, Figueroa. We've got guys like Guy Cote, who's kind of a forgotten piece in the trade that we got. This was the trade for Cody Mondesi, correct? No, not editor. Holy jeez, Chris, we're right off the path here. This was the John Head trade. When we traded John Head and Isaiah Godoy, who had 26 home runs this year, good for him. He was one of the pieces that we got back. And you know what? He's still kicking around. Didn't have a great time in AA this year, but he's got some potential. So we've got a lot of guys that I don't think we need to seriously retool. So I think we're somewhere in the middle. I think we need to figure out what it is we want to do and where we want to go and fill in the gaps kind of as needed. Who was your most disappointing player or prospect? Wow. I have to say, and again, it's hard to be disappointed in a guy that hit 34 home runs, but Cody Modesty hitting 34 home runs really hurt me. Again, in this lineup with him and I expected him and Rico to go absolutely crazy and hit 100 home runs and just go wild in the middle of that order. I mean, they hit 60. But again, that's a huge. Again, you know what? I think this stat line at 12.5 million, a lot of people take that. I mean, 34 homers for a last place team, 12.5 million, 12.75 million. I don't hate that. He's a fan fave. He helps our fan interest. But that's pretty disappointing for me. Prospect wise, it's hard because I want to say a guy like Alfonso Santiro, who we traded, but you know what? I don't think he ever really had much of a chance of living up to the hype. Hugo Huerta, another guy who was an 80 potential international player. He's 24 now, almost 25. He's brutal. He's dropped a bunch of potentials. That's disappointing. Just from you see what they could be. It's hard to say I have like a prospect that I feel most disappointed in because most of the guys that we have, who we've drafted, are still in their formative years. We had, you look at our four number one picks, right? Kraus, Carlson, Thompson, and Figueroa. Hard to be disappointed in any of them at this point. So I think in terms of this most disappointing prospect, we'll have to reserve judgment there. Who's your most inspiring player? I love Jaden Krause. I wish he could stay healthy. I think he has the ability to lead this team for years and years and years as a 1-2 kind of punch with Thompson. I love him. Again, I'm a little partial because he was my first round pick. He's got the captain trait. He's got some speed. Although 6 steals and 20 attempts this year, what are we doing? And I have my steal slider turned way down. But I love Jaden Krause. I just wish he could stay healthy. I think when he's healthy, he's one of the best V right hitters in the league, and we'll see how that goes. Again, one of my more inspiring prospects right now. Again, I'm falling in love with T.J. Nickerson. I think it's going to be interesting to see what he does in spring training. Can he bust his way onto the roster? Again, he's got some filling out to do in the contact and the power and the eye and the void Ks, and he's 23. That window is narrowing. Can he harness the potential? I hope so. Did you find a player or type of player that you developed a new appreciation for and or lost faith in? I think I've developed an appreciation for glue guys, guys that have good traits that can help your fan interest a little bit. Again, that's sort of the different, when perfect team, you don't consider any of that stuff. You have a guy on your bench that boosts your fan interest, that doesn't hurt you in the field, doesn't hurt you at the plate, but is not an everyday player, not a superstar. Dex Pape, a great example, right? I don't know what his role is going to be on the team moving forward if he has one, but he's that kind of guy. He doesn't hurt you in the field. He doesn't hurt you at the plate. He doesn't hurt you with the crowd. He doesn't hurt you in the locker room with bad traits. Those everyday eddies, I think, are key to, especially for a rebuilding team. You look at, for a team that has 106 losses, our cohesion is happy. We have pretty much all happy players. And it's because, those secondary guys are not hurting that. I don't want to say there's a type of player I've lost faith in, but the low stuff, high movement guys are just infuriating to me. Newland Boyle, great example. You think that profile, with low stuff, high movement, high control, you would think that stuff could be better. And again, I'm not ready to sell the farm on it that it's a completely useless profile. but it's infuriating the hell out of me. Last question. Is there any shifts in approach to how you've been putting together the MLB roster going from last offseason to this offseason, and why? No. That is something I have wrestled with repeatedly the last couple of weeks. Do we change course? Again, a lot was made 2 years ago. We decided to change our stadium to a more offensive environment, which, again, I thought a lot of it was fun factor. This is a game. It's supposed to be fun. I wanted to build a dinger paradise, which did not work out. I mean, we had 183 this year. I think, to me, you know what? We're sort of married to this strategy that we have. I would say I probably would be willing to try some different things on the pitching side, mostly because, nothing I've tried has worked. So I might try to get more creative there, try to work in some openers, maybe try some different profiles, some really high stuff guys, maybe bring back like a George Thompson, for example. I noticed the Patasic is available on the trade wire. Bring back a guy like that, really high stuff, high movement, no control type. But again, you know what? I think in terms of massive strategy shifts, probably not going to happen. Anyway, that's going to mark it the end of this episode of Big Red Machine. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, we're going to have some stuff coming up. Obviously, we're going to have off-season content. And we're also going to have the 2031 tier list, which you can look forward to probably next week. And until next time, keep swinging for the fences.